Hello, everyone. This is our emotional wolf of heart and soul centered astrology. What follows is a conversation between myself and my friend Dabney, where we discuss the current and upcoming Jupiter trine to Saturn. Currently, Jupiter and Saturn are trine, and they're going to leave the trine, and then later on next year, when they're both in fire signs, they're going to complete the trine. This is a very particular aspect, one definitely worth tuning into. Check the description to learn more about Dabney's work, her YouTube channel, Lawless Astrology. She has a foundations course for beginners as well. I have a class on Jupiter that I'm offering on sale for this entire month. And this Sunday, if you're catching this on time, I'll be teaching a class on Mars aspects, and it will be available for purchase afterwards as well. All right, I hope you enjoy.
So, Ari, do you want to set the stage and let us, let us know what's going on in the sky?
Okay, so yeah, we were tuning into like what would be a fun topic, and something that I just noticed that I think is kind of easy to miss is this really long-standing trine between Jupiter and Saturn. And by the way, there's like I don't know if you ever find this, but I find I tend to miss the trines. I focus a lot on the hard aspects, like the deeper catalyzing, right? And I miss these because I'm so oriented around like what's like the big evolutionary push. But trines are great, and so maybe what we can do is sort of set up the stage for like what are the players,
Mhm.
what are the patterns of movement over this next several months, and also like spend some time discussing what this trine is. So I'll share the screen here so we can introduce what's going on. I first noticed this when I was just looking at, Jupiter just went retrograde in Cancer, and it's really tightly trining Saturn. And you know what's interesting? They don't actually meet. Like they're almost in a trine. Like Jupiter is not quite there yet. It's like 12 minutes. And they're 60 minutes in a degree. So it's so close, but doesn't quite get there. And Saturn this month is also stationing direct. So we have two very slow moving planets that are in this really important turning phase. We can maybe speak more about that. That are in like they're edging a trine. They're like just about there. And I find that interesting. Like they never actually cross into it. Now, since Jupiter is going retrograde, once it goes direct, it will eventually enter into that trine with Saturn. So let's just look at that. I'm going to go month by month, and everyone, you can just follow Jupiter and Saturn visually. So Jupiter is going to go backwards. Saturn's direct. It's also moving forwards. So by February of next year, you'll see Saturn enters Aries. And around that time in March, Jupiter will station direct. So Jupiter's going to go direct in March and then go really gradually quicker and quicker and quicker into a trine. But interestingly, this trine will happen in the fire sign. So it sort of began in the water and it um, completes in the fire. So Saturn goes retrograde in Aries already at this point. By the time they actually complete the trine, Saturn's retrograde. Let's move this day by day because Jupiter's moving really quickly now. Looks like they exact at 13 degrees. And that's it. There'll just be one trine. And this happens all the way in August. So this is a particular evolutionary theme between now and, I mean, how many months from now is August? Like 10 or something like that? It's like a long,
It's a lot.
yeah. Um, so, I mean, I'll share some observations and we can sort of riff and jam on what we learned from this. Jupiter at that time will be moving towards the south node. So that's going to be an important Jupiter south node conjunction.
Um,
Saturn will have already crossed into a new phase with Neptune deep into Aries. So it's a very like by this time next year, the Saturn Neptune ecosystem will be very different. Like right now, we're in this really powerful culmination phase. They're ending a cycle, about to enter Aries. By now, they're like deeply in this. So it's a very, very new phase within Saturn. So let's offer some perspective on this. Let's talk about the trine, and then
yeah.
maybe we can sort of take apart like what each of these signatures mean and what this larger relationship is right now. So This is a trine. There are two trines in a cycle. If you put your finger on Saturn, kind of move through the zodiac, this is 120 degrees. So this is what we call a first quarter square trine. This is a moment along the journey where there's a lot of creative actualization. There's sort of an awareness of where we're coming from and more insight and knowledge into how to further integrate and creatively develop ourselves at this point. Now, the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter is the relationship between expansion, opportunity, experience, growth, kind of progressing along this path of ever unfolding realization, Jupiter, and the way that we consolidate and crystallize what we've learned in a way that's livable and structured in our life, Saturn. So, like all of our realizations and growth experiences and that amazing retreat you went to or the thing that you studied, it needs to be put into practice long term. So, the relationship between Jupiter and Saturn, always in any kind of relationship, in any kind of pattern, is the way that we consolidate and crystallize our learning into a structured long term path that allows for sustainable growth. That's the key. That's the basic idea behind it. You can also say it's like the relationship between this impulse for growth and expansion and this necessary limit or the boundaries and parameters and limits that we need to embrace in order to actually grow and mature along the soul journey. So this happening right now at the, just edging that trine in the water signs during this powerful movement, it just feels like there's a lot of emotional insight. So Jupiter in Cancer is emotional insight, knowledge about our path, learning how to feel safe and who are we, where do we belong, what is home, what do I need? I think Jupiter retrograde in Cancer really emphasizes this quality of my life needs to feel like it's my life, that it's relevant for me, that I'm being authentic to who I am. And it wants us to open up to a deeper expanse of emotional experience. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that, but I'll just complete this thought of introducing it. Then I would love to hear what you have to say. And Saturn and Pisces in this balsamic with Neptune is like this larger review of our life. Like, what's meaningful? What's the purpose of life? What does it have any meaning? Is what I'm doing really of essence? Am I just sort of following an old pattern? But like, what am I really here for? And what am I needing to unravel and bring to completion? And there's so much introspection on all of that. So yeah, do you want to add to any of these thoughts?
Yeah. So one of the things that when I look at Saturn, Jupiter, like in any transit chart or in a natal chart, the interesting thing in a natal chart for me with Saturn and Jupiter interactions is they have a way of balancing one another, whether that balance can be challenging for somebody or whether it flows. Saturn often is the way that we move forward in life. Saturn actually concretizes things and makes them realistic. They, can sometimes offer fear and blockages, but that's not ultimately what Saturn's there to do. It's there to protect you. And it's there to get you, on the right path, but it's going to require a lot of hard work. Like nothing worth doing always is like, if it's worth doing, it's worth putting the effort forth. And that's very Saturnian. When you have Jupiter, we think of as what's called a benefic. It's beneficial, it's lucky, like, oh, Jupiter's so great. But Jupiter can really be a slippery slope. Jupiter expands things. Jupiter's not always good. And so you have to look at the big picture. And so Saturn can be kind of depressing and pull you down, but Jupiter can go too far and can, lack boundaries and overwhelm a situation. And so having them talk to each other, really when planets are in aspect, they're having a conversation. And so having them, work it out with the trine, they're working it out where it's like you're not going to, get pulled too far down, but you're also not going to go too far up. Like there's kind of an opportunity for balance there in some ways in your life. To your point, this has to do with emotions because these are water signs and it's retrograde. Both of these planets are retrograde right now, meaning that we are going back over material and choices that we have made before. And we're seeing things in a different light. So the Saturn realism is giving you new insights which the Jupiter then can process and potentially be healing. So I also can't really totally ignore the fact that Neptune is in that trine. Now, it's not going to be that
Mhm.
exact trine, but Neptune is also there. And I've been talking a lot on my channel about how Neptune at the 29th degree really is this kind of culmination of the zodiac, where it's like the very last degree. And it is the point at which we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and we have to see what's really there before we can move forward. It's kind of the end point. And so when we're talking about this end point, there's a lot of things that are wrapping up, but it's emotional intuition that is available to you now that may not have been available to you in the past.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of opportunity for self-reflection and healing.
I love that you brought that in. It's so true. This is because there's such a culminative quality with this Neptune and Saturn moving to complete with Neptune. There's like this larger life review happening now. And I think if we're in tune, we can access, there's a path to our life, a journey. There's something unfolding that's kind of not necessarily what we understand. It's not the past. Like there's something that's being seeded for a new cycle. And we actually have to follow it with some faith, with trust, stepping into the unknown a little bit here. And this got me thinking too. Let's look back at this transit because before Jupiter actually trines Saturn, we're going to have Jupiter trining Neptune. So that
Mm.
actually adds a little more. I mean, the Jupiter Neptune relationships, like Jupiter is trining Neptune right now, but it's a few degrees from an exact trine. It's not as tight. But you can say this is also a part of this larger cycle, in this case, culminating in July. And that Jupiter Neptune relationship is about trust and faith and intuition. Neptune is the truth. We surrender to it. And then Jupiter is our understanding, our comprehension, our insight. So I think there is a great potential at this time for some really deep insight about our life, who we are, where we're going. And, with Jupiter in Cancer, the phrase that I like to use is emotional sincerity or emotional authenticity, not trying to make our experience something else or something that it's not lying to ourselves, not trying to contrive it. So it's like meeting the starkness of what's painful, what's difficult with that Saturn Neptune with honesty, actually being real about what's not working or how we feel about things. And there's a pathway that's beginning to unravel and unfold as we access more of our emotional freedom to feel and to experience everything. When this all moves into fire next year, I mean, can everyone see how palpable that is, right? Like, we're in a very deep water phase right now. And then all of these planets, starting in February or so of next year, all move into fire. So I think it's very clear that there's activation, there's inspiration, there's motivation, there's confidence, there's a sense of, fire, new phase with Saturn, Neptune. Something's moving next year. But right now, in the very beginning of this trine process, we're gathering a lot of emotional information and insight that we need to allow ourselves to kind of experience it and play it out. And that's going to be very helpful in making new choices and kind of seeing things differently, definitely next year as we enter into this new cycle.
And Cancer is the sign that represents the home and family and the mother. So there is something very and food and nurturing.
Mhm.
So there is something very personal about this, about how you were nurtured and what kind of nurturing that you need or didn't need now or you never got.
Right.
And the Pisces, that Saturn Neptune really is so much about coming to terms with our beliefs and understanding in the collective, but then also to your point, Ari, like our faith in something bigger than just what we see.
Mm.
It's what we feel. And so this trine is this amazingly beautiful opportunity to nurture something. It's about nurturing and reclaiming something that we didn't get. So
Wow.
we can go into this next year, which because the energy when it's in fire 100% different in my view. Like when I see this, like the everything's retrograde, everything's kind of internal, it's processing, it's
Feeling based, yeah.
right, it's really feeling based, and it just feels very, like you said, like a life review. I loved when you said that word, like life review. That's what, and the North Node there is in Pisces. It's not in Trine, but like that we have to take that into consideration as part of this whole, what we're supposed to be doing right now is processing something bigger that we can't really understand with our intellectual mind.
Mm.
Because if we don't heal now, when we get to this next phase, it's going to be very different.
Yeah, I really like this emphasis on this is a time of healing and useful emotional insight. In this idea of meeting and connecting with needs or fundamental pieces that we never received. I think there can be this really deep, larger insight around, oh, I've been functioning for all of these years, but I haven't known how to take care of myself in these essential ways, right? It's like
Mhm.
I'm doing X, Y, and Z, being a mature Saturn adult in the world, and here's some younger parts of me that I haven't listened to. And Jupiter in Cancer is about healing emotional alienation, not letting any part of ourself wander off, so to speak. Letting the journey be about embracing all of our whole human being. And in that relationship, in that trine with Saturn and Neptune, I think this really is about, taking responsibility to integrate and tend to more of the truth. And
Mm.
I think I would really emphasize, even though it's a trine, this is something I think a lot of people miss with trines. Yes, there's awareness, there's ease of insight, but the work is needed. In
Mhm.
dealing with Saturn and Neptune, it still might be facing some hard feelings. Oh, this fundamentally needs to go. This needs to
Mhm.
change. And we think about the Saturn Neptune, like this cycle is going to complete itself, but this completion isn't like do nothing and just wait until it happens. The completion is happening in us. Like we are the completion. The completion happens as we mature our own self awareness and actually co create. So there are actual practical, matured pieces of self knowledge and decisions that we ourselves come to as a part of this larger completion that we're surrendering to. Like we are allowing ourselves to be shaped and informed in a real way, not just sort of passively working this out. And that might be uncomfortable.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's such a good point. Is like the, the transformation can always be uncomfortable, even in a trine. The trine just means that you might overlook it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
it's
do the
easier to
work.
not do it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so, I just thinking of like an example of somebody who, is a people pleaser. Like, you just want to always like make sure everybody likes you, or,
Mm.
it depends on the houses and your own natal chart, but this is just an example, right? And it's almost like this is an opportunity to be like, oh, okay, if I'm a people pleaser at all costs, next year when the dynamic shifts into fire and I haven't kind of recognized where it's draining me, then
Mhm.
it is going to exhaust me more because things are going to accelerate, and that the people that there is going to be more that people want from me. Like, so that's just one example. So, or if you have a tendency to be escapist and like not want to deal with things, well, the credit card bills may come due next year.
Right,
Like that's kind of
right.
it's like it's all going to kind of come due next year. So now is like the opportunity to like be like, whoa, how can I work through this?
I love that. If we pretended this is a natal chart, also, right? Like archetypally, let's say we have someone with this chart, and we're looking at all these things that we're speaking about. Like, what might this person be unraveling? Like, imagine the scenario of someone that, and you got the Sag here in the ninth, ruled by Jupiter in the fourth. They travel all across the world doing this like really big work to feed people. It's like Saturn, Neptune, just devoting yourself to this larger purpose, wanting to save others and do good work in the world, and all impersonal, just here to help. And Jupiter, it's like home is everywhere on the journey. The question that I would pose is, are you happy? Are you sourced? You know,
Or have you given
to,
too much with
to what
this?
sacrifice, to what loss? And it's, yeah,
Right.
exactly. There can be this a deep sense of, yeah, I don't really know where my home is, or where I can feel replenished, or where I can feel, and that brings up some deeper pieces around like, do we really trust life? Do we trust that life is designed for our own wellness, or do we have to? Is there a belief that we have to sacrifice and lose? Um, a lot of times, like Saturn, Neptune, Pisces dynamic can express as like we lack the sense of feeling supported and contained and protected in life.
Yeah.
And so we live a life almost like protecting others. And this is like, expanded with Jupiter and Cancer. Everyone needs to feel safe. But maybe we're running away from something so fundamental and deep within ourselves in the guise of being very empathic and caring. This might be a deep thing that many of us, especially if we're just tending more towards that empathic nature, will be unraveling during this time.
Beautiful. Yeah. And then that also echoes the Chiron and Aries in the first house. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you have the agency? Like, can you care enough about yourself to put yourself first sometimes, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't always what needs to happen, but that might be what needs to happen to prepare for next year.
It's interesting because this Jupiter will is squaring and will tighten its square. I guess let's
Mhm.
just briefly look at that because it's worthwhile. Um, Going week by week here, it takes some time. Jupiter's going really slow right now, you know.
There, there you
So it
go.
looks like in December, mid-December is when they actually square each other, and then Jupiter will square Chiron again next year. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting piece. Um, it reminds me of something that happened recently. So I have Jupiter in the fourth, natally. So I used to live in my van, a typical Jupiter fourth house thing. But I would go in the water. Like I would go in like flowing rivers whenever I could to bathe and cleanse and just but I realized, oh man, I've been overly domesticated over the past several years, and I haven't really gotten in the water. So a couple of days ago, I said, during a break between sessions and teaching, I just walked to a local creek. And when no one was around, I took my clothes off, got in the water, and I'm like, oh, it's been so long. And it made me realize, okay, this is Jupiter in Cancer because the cold water and the square to Chiron. Like, the cold water stimulated energy. And if we feel stagnant, like we're not feeling or we're not in touch with ourselves, there's something about literally getting back in touch with nature or being in the forest, being in water. Because that Jupiter in Cancer square Chiron in Aries, I think really asks us to be stimulated, to actually feel. Like emotions need to move, and Aries is movement. And so if we're not moving, if we're not scared or kind of on the edge, there might be a deep sense of feeling stifled and out of place. So that Chiron Jupiter does, in a sense, like ask for stimulation, and that might be uncomfortable.
Awesome. Very interesting. I
Yeah.
love that you did that. That's great. You kind of like knew to take care of yourself and get back to your more
So
wild
important.
roots.
So important. How about we take a look at the different phases of this journey? So, or do you have any insights for where we can take this next?
I mean, I think like looking at it when it switches into fire signs,
Okay,
I think
cool.
is really important because that energy is so different. Like, you're no longer in the life review point. Like
Right.
we're not in retrogrades, we're direct and we're not emotionally bound. Now we're action oriented. We're about, claiming our life force in a lot of ways.
So check this out. July is where it gets really interesting. Or June, I guess. June. So Jupiter enters Leo in June, and it squares Chiron right away. So it completes its square with Chiron. This would be the third square.
Okay.
At the very end of June, early July. This is also when the South Node moves
It'll
into.
be big.
There you go. Where is it? It does it in July, I guess. It's stationing a whole bunch right now. There you go. Yeah, towards the end of July. And we have that Jupiter Sun conjunction. We're going to enter into eclipse season, actually. So
This
like
summer's gonna be wild, everybody. So
it's
get
gonna be
ready.
I mean, there's so many wild phases next year, to be honest. So yeah, we have that trine, um, tightening on that trine. Here's an eclipse in August. It's a solar eclipse that includes Jupiter. Basically Saturn's at the midpoint of this new moon and Jupiter conjunction. So yeah, I mean,
And you're past the Neptune piece of it. So
yeah, we're
Neptune
very
will
past that. Yeah.
no longer be a part of the story. It really will be kind of Saturn and Jupiter really sort of like battling it out in a way. Like there's the balance piece of it, but there's also the battle, right? There's the like, do your homework. No, I want to play.
Mhm, mhm,
Like
mhm.
there is sort of that aspect of like, you know, evolutionarily, what I would think with Aries and Saturn is it is about responsibility for your actions. It is taking accountability for yourself, first and foremost. Like we're no longer, thinking about our spiritual journey. This is about right action in the world. And the highest
Mhm.
expression of Aries is someone who, has a lot of energy and gets things, they declare themselves in the world. It correlates with spring. It's a cardinal sign. And so Saturn is saying, like, can you take responsibility for yourself? And,
Yeah.
here again, we're in retrograde season for Saturn at least, but and then the Jupiter piece of it in Leo is like, Jupiter in Leo is magnanimous. It's big energy. It's leadership. It's holding court in so many ways. There is just this like really big creative, again, marker of the self. So here are two self things like where you want to expand, you want to be creative, you want to be in your highest self. And also, can you do that in a responsible way?
What comes to me is with this strong emphasis, it does speak to the courage and the self-confidence to actualize. So if
Love
everyone can
that.
think about,
Yes.
we have this journey basically spanning 20 degrees from 25 Cancer to, 15 Leo, and the
Mhm.
same with Aries. So there's like this 20 arc from 25 Pisces and Cancer to 25 to 15 Aries and Leo. Where is that in your own chart? This symbolizes where there is actually going to be the need to, as you're saying, taking responsibility for our life and actually creating the discipline and effort. Saturn and Aries is effort. Trying to Leo, don't just rest on your laurels and like let it be easy. You have all of this creative energy. It needs to be used. Otherwise, I think there'll be a deep sense of restlessness and almost like an adolescent need to like create some excitement or um
Or
return to a
anger,
sense of
right?
play
Like
or
just
anger. Yeah, it's like, hey, what
bitter.
about
You're just
me?
bitter.
Yeah. Like, what
Yeah.
about me? What about my, exactly. It's like during this time of unraveling in these 20 degrees, I think we're really reconnecting with what's meaningful, what's true, what do I really want to be doing with my life? And I think the next few months in particular, in my sense of it, as Saturn and Neptune move direct and move into Aries, it's a big karmic reckoning. Am I really claiming why I'm here versus why I thought I was here? But am I claiming why I'm here? I like this quote from A Course in Miracles. It goes something like, understanding can only come with peace. And I think we can only really be peace when we fulfill our function, when we do the work that we're here to do. There's a disrest if we're not in touch with that. And this Leo here, and just look at these transits in August, it's really asking us to have courage and make some bold moves. So you can think of this arc of the entire trine as like unearthing a lot of emotional insight, leading to a calling towards courage and activation. And I guess there'll be another eclipse just afterwards, 2 weeks later, at the end of August. It'll be a lunar eclipse. I'm almost certain. If you go, yeah, happening in the very beginning of
Mhm.
Virgo Pisces, I guess. So yeah, very close to the nodes. And then Jupiter will actually reach the south node, I guess, in later in the year. So yeah, I
I
think
love it.
I think
I
that's a pretty good full complete analysis of this.
I agree. And I really am glad you brought this to our attention because I don't do as much with the aspects.
Mm.
So I'm grateful. I do think that it's important for people to have that understanding. And I loved when you said confidence. Can you have the confidence for self actualization? And the reality is, without that inner work, you can't have the confidence for self-actualization. So the
Mm.
inner work comes now, and then you get to kind of put it into motion. And that is the highest expression of what the universe is trying to help us come to.
Beautiful.
And if we miss that piece of it, if we don't get the piece that, we have to kind of do that life review, then you may not have the confidence. You may, then just want attention, to your point, or it may just feel like you're bitter or angry. And we don't want that to happen. It's all opportunities for us. The universe is conspiring to help us.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for hanging out, Ari.
Yeah, glad we did this. Once again, check out the description to learn more about all of our offerings, Dabney's YouTube channel, her foundations course. I have my self-study training program, my newsletter, sessions, and my class on Jupiter that I just taught is offered on sale for this entire month. Check out my upcoming live class on Mars aspects happening this Sunday. All right, thank you all so much for watching.